Good morning, everybody. This is Bernie Pelletier from PACE. I want to just get us started so we're not too late. Really appreciate everyone sharing their lunchtime with us. Welcome to this introduction to heat pumps and the Energized Connecticut heat pump consultation. You have 2.5 hosts. Today you've got PACE, which is the organization I work for. Clean Water Action actually hosts the Connecticut Energy Network, which is the convening group. And many of you know Patrice Gillespie, who we affectionately refer to as the den mother of the Connecticut Energy Network. Sorry about that. Just a tiny squib on the two of us. People's Action for Clean Energy has been around since 1973. We are working on the 100% Connecticut project, which is developing plans for every town in Connecticut to move over time to 100% renewable energy. The Connecticut Energy Network is coordinated by Clean Water Action and is really a group of groups. Many of you here represent energy committees, sustainability teams. Some of you are new to this process. Some of you have been at it for literally decades. The Clean Water Action Group actually is celebrating their 50th anniversary. PACE isn't quite that venerable yet, but we're working on it. You've all been welcomed. I just want to give you a little session overview. We're going to start off with me making a couple remarks about community campaigns. Many of you are veterans of all sorts of different campaigns. Most of my remarks are going to be aimed at our experiences and learnings from the 5 Heat Smart campaigns that PACE has conducted. But many of the things I'm going to say are extensible to Solarize, to EV campaigns, to battery storage campaigns. So just because the topic is Heat Smart and heat pumps today, we're going to mostly focus on Heat Smart. I'm going to be very excited to introduce Melanie and Chris Herringa, who are the featured speakers today. I will tell you in advance, this is one of the best presentations on heat pumps, and it isn't just air source heat pumps, it's really all sorts of heat pumps that I've seen. 12:45 or so, we'll get into questions and answers. I would ask you've all been muted at this point. So type your questions in the chat. Patrice, Mark, Deb Rowe of PACE will all sort of curate those questions. If you have a question on clarity, so if Melanie or Christopher, if something is just completely inexplicable, just say, I've got a clarity question, and we will interrupt them. Other than that, we want them to just sort of go through their deck. And at 1 o'clock, on the dot, we will adjourn, we'll go forth, and we'll be smarter and more productive than we were when we started this meeting. Community campaigns, this is going to be very brief, and I view this really as an introduction to Melanie and Chris's remarks, because each of you today, I want you to think of yourself as wearing 2 hats. A hat for your own personal adoption of this sort of technology, and I know many of you already have. But also, the main reason that you're here today is that you are influential in your community. People look to you for guidance, and this session is hopefully going to make you an informed and a better advocate when it comes to this, frankly, very difficult technology. So these community campaigns, I think we all kind of love this Margaret Mead quote that we never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. For indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. And in Connecticut, whether you think of yourself this way or not, you are that group of thoughtful, committed citizens. And you think about the community campaigns in the abstract, and what we're really doing is connecting towns to resources. What are we doing in those campaigns? We identify needs. In this case, transforming the thermal sector over time to a renewable basis. We identify the barriers to that achieving that need. We find the resources, you're getting one today, that you can connect people to. We do outreach, and all of you, I'm going to guess, if you're here today, have done some form of outreach in your community. You know that it is real work, and your value is that you are in the community, you know where things are, and people know you. We're not going to go through this very wordy slide in tremendous detail, but over the 5 Heat Smart campaigns that PACE has conducted, we have encountered and sort of chronicled many obstacles, many things that we've heard. And we bucketed them for purposes of this discussion today into 4 categories. Things about installers, things about equipment, the general ambient knowledge out there, and of course, economics. When I talk about installers, I'm not really talking about anything bad about installers. They're really a group of hardworking folks. We need more of them. But in that community, to be frank, there are different degrees of experience. There's different degrees of training, and frankly, different degrees of interest in heat pumps. Many folks, this is a new frontier for them. They're familiar with the oil world, they're familiar with the gas world, and this heat pump thing is new. Installers typically only represent a few of the brands that are out there. Some of them have very different views on using heat pumps. I've actually had some rather difficult conversations with some installers. And one thing I would stress to you is that early education on heat pumps is important, because just to take an extreme case, when your boiler breaks down in February and it's 10 degrees out, you're not going to have a philosophical discussion about the thermal sector. You're going to call somebody up and say, fix this or replace this. And so if we want to transition this sector over time in a responsible way, education is key. Equipment, one thing that makes it difficult for folks to adopt this technology is it's just so many different kinds of equipment. I'll just say ground source, air source, ducted, ductless, heat pump, hot water heaters. There are different brands with different capabilities. Lately, the supply chain has made this part of the world tough. Some homes are good fits, others are challenging. And really, the equipment needs vary with the tightness of the home. So you can put a fossil fuel heating system into almost any home. You just say, if 80,000 BTUs is not enough, you just say, I'll take 100,000 BTUs. That's more difficult to do with a heat pump. You as advocates, you think about the community that you're engaging. There's a lot of information out there. Actually, there's not that much information out there. Many people have never heard of this technology. And unfortunately, a lot of the information about heat pumps that is out in the world is not correct or not current. In addition, multiple perspectives on this. There's economic, there's comfort perspectives, and there's environmental considerations. And each of those would argue for different approaches. Finally, let's say that you've overcome all of those issues and you're sitting there looking at 3 different quotes. It's really difficult for the layman to review those quotes and make an informed decision. Different equipment, different configurations, different pricing options. In addition, sometimes you need electrical work or duct work, and the incentives are hard to follow. So believe it or not, I'm almost to the finish line here on these remarks, and I want to invoke one of my favorite songs from the 60s. It's called Pack Up Your Sorrows. My favorite version of that is Judy Collins. And here are 5 lines from that. But if somehow you could pack up your sorrows and you could give them all to me, you would lose them. I know how to use them. Give them all to me. Why am I saying that? Well, we're going to take all those problems that we've encountered, and you're not going to give them to me. You're going to give them to Melanie, and you're going to give them to Chris, and they have answers. We're really excited by what we're going to hear today. They're adding a customer-centric, knowledgeable voice to this discussion. They're able to engage at resident by resident. They're good at keeping current, streamlining, and understanding incentives and explaining them. And to some extent, they're going to add order and discipline to this marketplace. And thank you very much for your time. And Melanie and Chris, if you are able to share your screen, welcome aboard.
All right, can everyone see my screen?
We can see you and hear you.
Excellent. So on behalf of Eversource and United Illuminating, the sponsors of Energized Connecticut, I would like to thank you all for joining our Lunch and Learn webinar for heat pump advocates. My name is Melanie Shea. I'm joined by my colleague, Christopher Herringa. We're both from Abode Energy Management, and we work with Energized Connecticut's heat pump program as part of their specialist team. We work closely with Mia Lombardi at Eversource and Sharon Garino at United Illuminating to offer these services. So during this training, we'll cover an introduction to Energized Connecticut initiatives, an overview of how heat pumps work, equipment options, operational guidance, and then review the rebates and resources available through the residential program. So an introduction to Energized Connecticut. Energized Connecticut is an initiative dedicated to empowering Connecticut to make smart energy choices now and in the future. We provide Connecticut consumers, businesses, and communities the resources and information they need to make it easy to save energy and build a clean energy future for everyone in the state. This initiative is sponsored by the Connecticut Energy Efficiency Fund, the Connecticut Green Bank, the state, and your local electric and gas utilities. The initiative has funding support from a charge on customer utility bills. Eversource and United Illuminating electric customers have a combined public benefits charge on their bill. Connecticut Natural Gas, Southern Connecticut Gas Company, and Eversource natural gas customers have a conservation charge included in their utility rates. So through our residential HVAC programs, the sponsors of Energized Connecticut offer rebates, financing, marketing materials, technical resources to help motivate customers to install efficient, clean heating and cooling technologies like heat pumps. Over the past few years, tens of thousands of Connecticut residents have installed heat pumps. We issue surveys to understand the current market perceptions and post-installation satisfaction. Our survey results show three primary motivations for customers when deciding to install heat pumps. They provide the ability to heat and cool all in one unit or system. They lower the cost of heating and cooling, and they help reduce your carbon footprint. So first, we'll review how heat pumps work, how efficient they are, and understand the key considerations on whether a home is suitable for the technology. Some common misconceptions. Myth number one, heat pumps need backup in the cold. Today's high performance units work well in cold weather. Many models are rated down to -15 degrees or lower. And as long as the heat pump system was properly sized for your home, backup heat is not needed. Myth number two is heat pumps aren't efficient in the cold. Now, though they get less efficient at cold temperatures, even at -15 degrees Fahrenheit, qualifying heat pumps are far more efficient than any other combustion system. Even at temperatures near and below zero, high performance heat pumps can be over 100% efficient. And we'll go into these details on these facts later in the presentation. So how do heat pumps work? Heat pumps use technology similar to a refrigerator or a traditional air conditioner. The main difference is they can reverse the refrigerant cycle to move heat in both directions. They move heat into your home in the winter, providing you heating, and they move heat out of your home in the summer, providing cooling. Heat pumps are highly efficient because they use electricity to move heat rather than generate it. And this is possible because of the properties of the refrigerant in the system. R410A refrigerant actually boils at negative 54 degrees Fahrenheit. So that negative 15-degree air temperature is actually still really warm for this refrigerant, and that's how it extracts heat at those very cold temperatures to bring it into your home. So because heat pumps are more than 100% efficient, their efficiency rating is given as a coefficient of performance, or COP for short. The COP rating of a heat pump is the ratio of how much useful heating or cooling energy a heat pump will produce given 1 unit of electricity into the system. Burning fossil fuels will always have an efficiency rating less than 100% because there are losses in that burning process. A lot of excess heat goes up the flue, or in the distribution process, heat is lost through uninsulated piping or ductwork. Looking at electric resistance heating, similar to a basic toaster, that is 100% efficient. For every 1 kilowatt of electricity you put into it, you get 1 unit of heat out. Now, because heat pumps are moving heat, not creating it, they are more than 100% efficient. So for every 1 unit of electricity used to power the heat pump, you're receiving 1.5 to 4 units of heating out. And the 1.5 to 4 units depends on the outdoor temperature for air source heat pumps. Over the course of a heating season, the average COP of a heat pump is 2.8. So really you can think of that heat pump as 280% efficient. So I touched on the fact that the efficiency or COP rating of a heat pump varies, air source heat pump varies depending on outdoor temperatures. So 1 kilowatt of energy in, 1 unit of heat out with an electric resistance is 100% efficiency. That 1 unit of electricity is equal to 3,412 BTUs of heat. A heat pump with a varying COP depending on outdoor temperatures provides different amount of heating at different temperatures. Usually you see a rating of a COP at 47 degrees Fahrenheit. Many systems are around the 3.45 COP rating. So for every 1 kilowatt electricity you put into the system, you get 11,771 BTUs worth of heating. Even at 5 degrees, you're getting more than double the heating output for every unit of electricity you put into the system. So since heat pumps are so efficient, how much can you expect to save? Well, it depends. Depends on your current heating fuel costs, what that fuel is, how efficient the heat pump is that you've selected, and how energy efficient your home is overall. One resource that we have on the Energized Connecticut website is a clean heating and cooling calculator, and this helps you compare costs of your current heating system to a new heat pump system. You enter information about your current utility usages, the size of your home, the insulation levels, and this can give you a good estimate on what you can expect to save. So for many of us, heat pumps will save us on energy costs. This chart uses 10 years worth of Hartford heating weather data to compare the operating costs of different fuel types. The gray background are the number of hours spent at each outdoor temperature. So the heating season is between 60 degrees and negative 11 degrees. You can see we spend the majority of the heating season, it's actually about 80% above freezing temperatures, where heat pumps operate at very high efficiencies. So the cost to run an air source heat pump is in green, oil is in black, then purple is propane, electric resistance is yellow. So with the exception of natural gas in blue, heat pumps effectively beat out all of the fuel types in cost effectiveness, regardless of outdoor temperature. If fuel prices increase, as they historically do, it won't take much for heat pumps to be the most cost-effective option in the near future. But also note that ground source heat pumps in red are very cost competitive with natural gas. So beyond cost savings, heat pumps are significantly less carbon intensive than combustion systems. So this chart uses the same weather data from the previous slide and examines how many tons of CO2 emissions are released into the atmosphere during a typical heating season from that heating equipment. So heat pumps are again in green and red and have no direct emissions from their operation, whereas fossil fuel systems actually have direct emissions that are vented into the atmosphere from your home. So this chart uses New England's electricity generation mix to calculate these emissions. And the cleaner the electricity is produced, the cleaner the air source heat pumps will become, while fossil fuel systems will stay stagnant. And if you're purchasing solely renewable energy or have enough solar on your home to cover your electric usage, your emissions are 0 for your heating system. So let's talk about heat pump sizing. The first important thing to know is a building's heating load. That heating load is the amount of BTUs per hour a home needs to maintain a comfortable indoor temperature when the outdoor temperature is the typical coldest temperature for where that home is located. For residential homes, a heating load calculation is performed using a standard set by ACCA's Manual J. So for a contractor to properly size any heating system, they really need a floor plan and dimensions of the home. They need to know the window sizes, the orientation of the building, how well air sealed the home is, and what the actual insulation values are throughout the home. All this information gets put into a modeling software for Manual J, and it provides you a heating load. So here are 3 examples of different heating loads. The old farmhouse on the left is large, it's poorly insulated and leaky. It results in a heating load of 100,000 BTUs per hour. The Cape in the middle is a bit smaller, a bit newer. It has some decent insulation and air sealing. It needs about 50,000 BTUs per hour. The home on the right is probably a new construction, high performance home, super well insulated and air sealed. It only needs 24,000 BTUs per hour to stay comfortable on that coldest day of the year. So now when thinking about heat pump system to serve these unique homes, there are a variety of models on the market that perform differently in the cold. So here are 2 examples. These 2 heat pumps both are rated at 30,000 BTUs at 47 degrees Fahrenheit. But looking at the heating capacity at 5 degrees Fahrenheit, the system on the left provides 12,000 BTUs per hour, whereas the high performance heat pump on the right maintains its full heating capacity of 30,000 BTUs per hour at 5 degrees. So if we were to compare these 2 systems for some of these homes, the farmhouse would need 9 standard air source heat pumps versus 4 high performance heat pumps to meet its heating load. And then the high performance home would really only need 1 high performance heat pump to serve the whole home. So one of the key takeaways is 1, you want to consider high performance heat pumps that maintain their full heating capacity down to 5 degrees. And weatherize a home the best you can first to lower its heating load, and then choose a high performance heat pump to meet 100% of that home's heating needs. So here is a quick case study example. This is actually one of my colleagues' homes. It was built in the 1900s. When they purchased it, it had single pane windows, no insulation in the walls, minimal insulation in the attic, and was very leaky. They took all that information and put it into a Manual J modeling software and found out their home needed 100,000 BTUs per hour to be comfortable on the typical coldest day of the year. Using heat pumps to heat or cool this home would result in a large, expensive system that would have to work really hard to keep the home comfortable. So my colleague, being a building scientist, knew the first important step was making their home more comfortable and energy efficient was to have a home energy solutions assessment done to access rebates for weatherization improvements. So during that home energy solutions visit, the technician air sealed the attic in the rim and band joist area in their basement. They added weather stripping to the exterior doors. And then they let my colleague know of all the rebates that were available to them for adding insulation in their home and upgrading their windows. So they insulated the walls, they insulated the attic, and they switched out all their single pane windows for Energy Star double pane windows. And this was all incentivized and financed through Energized Connecticut. So all this improvement cut the home's heating load almost in half. So this results in cost to heat the home dropping from $3,200 a year to $1,600 a year. The heat pump install cost went from $50,000 down to $25,000. And having that smaller heat pump system also meant less load was added to our electrical panel, which left room for them to add an electric vehicle charger in the future. So just to reiterate, heat pumps work best in a well-insulated home, and manual J load calculations are needed to properly size a heat pump to serve 100% of a home's heating needs. So now I'll go over some equipment options with air source heat pumps. So some key considerations to make before installing heat pumps. As we just went over, a home should first be weatherized for heat pumps to work optimally. Homeowners then decide if they want to displace some of their existing heating system or completely replace. They then need to understand that heat pumps do use electricity to operate, so that will increase their electrical bill. However, in most cases, that electrical bill increase is outweighed by reducing or eliminating fossil fuel bills. So how much do air source heat pumps cost to install? Again, that depends on the specific characteristic of your home, how much of your home's heating and cooling needs you want the heat pump system to cover, the system type and features, and your installer. So rough estimates. Before incentives, a single zone ductless system is about $5,000, including installation. For a multi-zone system, each additional indoor head would be about $3,000 to $5,000. So if you had a multi-zone system with 3 heads, you're starting at $5,000, then you're adding another $10,000 for the 2 additional heads. A whole home ducted replacement system will start about $15,000 or more, depending on the home. So in general, ductless systems for larger homes and homes with more rooms or more zones will have higher costs. Conversely, small homes or homes that have very well insulated envelope or have a lot of open concept rooms can have lower units and lower the costs. In general, for ducted systems, costs increase depending on the size of the home and the degree that the ductwork may need to be modified. Ductwork modifications can increase the project cost significantly. But if your home already has some ductwork and it is suitable for heat pumps, having a heat pump be swapped out for your existing system, utilizing that existing ductwork, could be the most cost-effective option. Also, if your home has less than a 200 amp electrical service, likely you will need to upgrade that panel and incur those additional costs. So here are some air source heat pump types. They're very versatile systems. They have indoor ductless units that can be wall mounted, floor mounted, or recessed into the ceiling. So started with the wall hung unit on the left. Most of us are familiar with these. They're usually installed on exterior walls, but sometimes can be placed on interior walls as well. In the middle are floor mounted units. They look a bit more like an old radiator. These are becoming increasingly popular and are a great alternative to the wall hung units. And then on the right side, we have ceiling cassettes. These can be recessed into your ceiling, and the rectangular shaped ones can easily fit between your ceiling joists. Ductless equipment comes in a large variety of capacities, with the smallest residential unit providing 6,000 BTUs per hour, up to the largest providing 36,000 BTUs per hour. So you can opt to have a ductless unit to serve many rooms in your home, or you could have a few centrally located units. Again, a few centrally located units means a less costly system. Another type of air source heat pump are ducted units. So as I mentioned, when your home has existing ductwork, a centrally ducted heat pump could utilize that ductwork to provide both heating and cooling to all the spaces it currently serves. Ask your contractor to verify that the existing ductwork is adequate for the new heat pump system. We want to make sure that the ductwork is well sealed and insulated. If they are not, there are services incentivized through the Energized Connecticut Home Energy Solutions program to help make those improvements. Ducted air handlers come in several sizes: a full-size air handler for a whole home system, or compact units to serve one or a few rooms. Ducted systems have the advantage of being able to proportionally provide heating and cooling to rooms of any size. If your home does not currently have ductwork, but does have some attic, unfinished basement, or crawl space, often a combination of ducted and ductless units can be the best design solution. A good strategy to optimize the benefit of both ductless and ducted systems is to have a ducted system serve smaller rooms, such as a group of bedrooms and bathrooms with attic space above, and then maybe have one or a few ductless units serve larger, more open concept living areas. Now the outdoor units. A single zone system, or a one-to-one, is one indoor unit tied to one outdoor unit. These are incredibly efficient at both heating and cooling. The outdoor condenser can connect to a ductless unit as shown, or a ducted unit. Depending on the size of the outdoor condenser and the type of indoor unit, you can condition a very small room or a large great room. Single zone units offer excellent control and comfort. Multi-zone systems, or 1 to 3, as shown in the image above, can also be connected to ductless, ducted, or a combination of both types of indoor units. Multi-zones also provide excellent efficiency when heating and cooling, and these units can handle multiple rooms, multiple floors in your home, or your whole home, depending on how they're configured. While one multi-zone unit could be configured to have enough indoor units to provide a solution for a whole larger home, manufacturers encourage best practice design that breaks up the responsibility to multiple outdoor condenser units rather than one. Having multiple outdoor units results in overall better efficiency, control, comfort, and reduces your risk of any potential performance issues. It also has a benefit of redundancy. So if one of the systems were to go down for maintenance, you'd still have the other system to provide you some heating and cooling. So now we'll take a look at some examples of heat pump system designs for a single story, 15,000-ish square foot home. This example is an installation of a single zone system to serve the whole house. This could be a good solution as a supplemental system, or if you're used to a single point heat source like a wood stove or pellet stove. But if your goal is to have the heat pump be your only heating and cooling, this configuration, although affordable, could result in comfort and performance issues throughout the home. The heat pump will have to work really hard to heat or cool the whole space, and the bedrooms far away from the heat pump will be several degrees cooler or warmer than the main living space. Some people might think to do the opposite of that and to have an indoor unit in each room of the house. This may be an okay solution if the rooms are large and the occupants have prioritized having the ability to control the temperature differently in each room. Usually, however, this type of design, ductless unit in each room, results in a system with more heating and cooling capacity than the home needs overall. This results in the system cycling on and off frequently, which increases electrical consumption and can also create comfort issues. Heat pumps run most efficiently when they are matched to the heating loads of the home. They run at a steady state. They are set to a comfortable temperature and left there. So what do we need to do to make sure the bedrooms are comfortable and we don't have more capacity than we need? As I mentioned previously, often it's a good strategy to optimize the benefit of both systems, ductless and ducted. If there is some attic space above the smaller rooms, or maybe an unfinished portion of a basement or crawl space below, consider adding a compact ducted unit to serve those smaller rooms. This way, the heating capacity of the ducted unit can be proportionally distributed to the group of smaller rooms. The image above shows that unit serving just the bedrooms, but you could also serve that bathroom as well. Then add a ductless unit to be used to serve open concept large living spaces. And then if your home has existing ductwork, centrally ducted heat pumps could utilize that ductwork to provide both heating and cooling to the spaces it serves. If your home has a large single zone ducted system, potentially think about breaking it up. So the downstairs is on its own system, and then add an additional air handler for the second floor so that you have some more control over the temperatures between your two floors. And again, you want to make sure that your existing ductwork, if it is being used for the heat pump system, is well sealed and insulated. So now we'll go over equipment options for ground source heat pumps. Ground source heat pumps have three major components. You have an outdoor component, which is the ground loop or wells, the indoor heat pump unit itself, and then a distribution system to deliver heating and cooling throughout your home. This could be ductwork and or hot water piping. Ground source heat pumps work the same way air source heat pumps do. They use the refrigerant cycle to move heat in and out of your home. Instead of exchanging this heat with the air, they exchange this heat with the ground. Because they take advantage of the stable underground temperature of the earth, around 50 degrees here in Connecticut, ground source heat pumps are the most efficient heating and cooling system available. They have a consistent COP rating, somewhere between 3 and 4, regardless of outdoor temperatures. This is why they're the most efficient heating system and the least costly to operate. Ground source heat pump projects have a much higher initial capital investment because you're typically purchasing and installing 3 separate systems. That outdoor ground loop or wells take some construction out in your yard. You have your indoor heat pump system, and then you may need to add different distribution systems to your home as well. While thinking about the investment, it is important to remember that the outdoor loops or wells have 50 to 100 years useful life. And the distribution system will have useful life of about 50 years. Energized Connecticut sponsors offer rebates up to $15,000 for ground source heat pump systems. So a recap of heat pump benefits. Compared to oil, propane, or electric resistance, heating with heat pumps costs less to operate during the heating season. You can choose air source or ground source systems. Air source systems can be ducted or ductless or a combination of both and can serve individual rooms or a whole home. Ground source heat pump systems are the most efficient, least costly to operate, and they're a great option if your home already has some radiant floor heating. Heat pumps increase comfort and convenience, heating and cooling and dehumidification offered in one system. They also reduce your greenhouse gas emissions. Heat pumps do not directly produce emissions, and when operating them and are paired with renewable energy sources like solar, they have 0 emissions. Now we'll talk about some operational guidance. Heat pumps operate differently than conventional heating and cooling air conditioning systems. So we'll go over some tips on how to operate the heat pump systems to maximize their performance and keep operating costs low. So step one, like to drive home, is you want to seal in your savings by weatherizing your home first. Schedule a home energy solutions visit to understand how your home is performing. High performance air sealing, duct sealing, insulation, windows, and doors will all help keep that heating and cooling your new heat pump system is providing you in your home longer, meaning the system will not have to work as hard to keep you comfortable. And use your heat pump year round. High performance heat pumps are the most efficient heating system, even on the coldest winter day. If you have both a heat pump and a furnace or boiler, your heat pump is the most energy efficiency choice and should be prioritized. So how to best operate your heat pump? Set it and forget it. Turning your heat pump off or changing its temperature during the night or when you're away for shorter periods of time may actually end up using more energy and cause you comfort issues. Generally advise to find a temperature that's comfortable for you and leave it there. Although if you like to have certain rooms of your home at different temperatures, you feel free to definitely adjust your temperature, but just know that you are sacrificing a little bit of efficiency by swinging the temperatures in your home. Set it for comfort. Common homeowner advice may tell you to keep your thermostat at a certain set point, say 68 degrees in the winter. However, ductless units sense indoor temperatures a bit differently. So don't pay attention to that numeric temperature value and just set the unit to where you feel comfortable. Also avoid the auto mode. When the temperature outside is mild, a heat pump's auto mode can sometimes result in the system switching back and forth between heating and cooling. To prevent this, set the heat pump to cooling during spring and summer and set it to heating during fall and winter. The auto fan mode, however, is a different setting and is completely okay to use. Dual fuel integrated controls. So while high efficiency heat pumps are capable of providing 100% of a home's heating needs, homeowners may opt to keep their existing heating system in place. Integrated controls help minimize the use of the existing system while maximizing the use of the heat pump to get maximum savings and comfort. Integrated controls help you reduce your carbon footprint by prioritizing your heat pump first for your heating needs. And this improves efficiency and means less money is spent on oil or propane fuel. So integrated controls can be used in two ways. You can set it to swap over from the heat pump to the fossil fuel system based on a specific outdoor temperature, or you can set it so that the fossil fuel system will only kick on if for some reason the heat pump system wasn't keeping up. So what type of maintenance is required for a heat pump system? Clean your filters. When your filters get dirty, your heat pump has to work harder to move air and its efficiency will decrease. Check your filters regularly at first and then get a sense of how often they get dirty. The location of your units and other factors may impact how often they need cleaning. Consult your owner's manual for instructions. Keep your outdoor unit clean and clear as well. To operate efficiently, outdoor units need space for airflow. Check your outdoor unit regularly. When needed, clear away fallen leaves, trim shrubs, and shovel away snow. And also have your heat pump serviced. As with any heating and cooling system, it's important to have your equipment regularly serviced to extend its lifespan and keep it running efficiently. Talk to your installer or another qualified heat pump technician about setting up a routine service plan. So next we'll go over heat pump rebates and resources offered by Energized Connecticut. So air source heat pump rebates come in two forms. First, there's an instant discount that a licensed installer is given when purchasing qualified equipment through a participating distributor. These savings should be passed along to you, the customer, on the quotes. Next, there is a mail-in rebate, and as of right now, there are two paths depending on your existing fuel type. For electrically heated homes, customers may qualify for the mail-in rebate by participating in a home energy solutions visit prior to the installation of their heat pump system. The rebate application form will be provided to you at the time of that home energy solutions visit. For oil and propane heated homes, customers can apply through the heat pump pilot program, and if they meet eligibility requirements, can then apply for the mail-in rebates. However, Energized Connecticut sponsors, Eversource and United Illuminating, are excited to announce that new heat pump energy optimization rebates are coming soon. These rebates will be available to residential electric customers replacing or displacing existing oil, propane, or electric heat, and will only be available for installations completed by contractors participating in the Energized Connecticut heat pump installer network. The rebate amounts will not be changing. So the fine print. Rebates can be applied to a maximum of 3 systems, meaning 3 outdoor units. They can be up to $15,000 combined incentives per home. In tons, the system size is based on AHRI cooling capacities. 1 ton is equivalent to 12,000 BTUs. In order for heat pump equipment to qualify for rebates and financing, it must meet these minimum efficiency criteria and be listed on the Energized Connecticut Air Source Heat Pump Qualified Products List. Tier 1 equipment will receive an instant discount of $250 per ton, and the Tier 2 equipment will receive an instant discount of $500 per ton. Rebates are also available for ground source heat pump systems in the form of a mail-in rebate. Ground source heat pump equipment must be Energy Star certified in order to be eligible for a rebate. And the average Connecticut home is eligible to receive more than $7,500 when upgrading to ground source heat pumps. Eversource and UI have also developed some marketing material to help promote heat pump technology. These materials are available to assist with marketing efforts and provide valuable information to customers. Here's a preview of the Introduction to Heat Pumps trifold brochure. This is also available as a mobile-friendly 2-page PDF that is linked on the Energized Connecticut webpage. The sponsors have also created an air source heat pump user tips trifold brochure, highlighting many of the things we've already discussed. This is also available as a mobile-friendly 2-page PDF that is linked on the Energized Connecticut webpage. This is a great resource for a contractor to leave with a customer after their installation is complete. Energized Connecticut services include no-cost virtual heat pump consultations for residential electric customers of Eversource and UI. Our heat pump specialists, like myself, are building scientists and heating and cooling experts that can support customers at all stages of their project. These consultations will result in customers having a good understanding of how heat pump technology works, how heat pumps have benefits, rebates, financing offers, and what type of system may be best for their home. This will give them the confidence to start the process of looking for a contractor and soliciting quotes. Once they've started soliciting quotes, they can send those quotes back to us. We can review them and have another discussion with them on what might be the best fit for their home. To schedule a no-cost heat pump consultation, visit energizedct.com/heat pump and click the big green button that says Energized Connecticut Heat Pump Consultations. And if you're looking for a contractor that is participating in our heat pump installer network, you can visit energizect.com/find a contractor and select either air source or ground source heat pump services. The contractors listed, as I mentioned, are part of our Energized Connecticut heat pump installer network. This means they are independent, licensed, insured, and actively engaged with Energized Connecticut residential HVAC programs. As part of enrolling in this network, contractors sign a participation agreement and agree to install in accordance with our quality installation checklists. Contractors will also need to be on this list to access the new rebates that will be coming out. So some key takeaways. Tens of thousands of Connecticut residents have already installed heat pumps because they are reliable and the most cost-effective way to heat and cool. Technological advances make cold climate heat pumps ready to support 100% of a home's heating load, and many units work down to -15 degrees or lower. Heat pumps installed in an adequately weatherized home can dramatically improve comfort throughout the home. The sponsors of Energized Connecticut offer incentives and resources to customers considering heat pump installations. And that's a wrap.
Thank you very much, Melanie. That was great. That's a lot of information that you presented there.
There was.
Christopher has been fielding questions, but and maybe Christopher, you want to lift up some of the big ones that you've kind of been fielding?
Sure. Yeah. I'll reiterate the part about someone asking about using a heat pump to replace their existing hot water baseboard. So at this time, the technology that's available in the US market to replace, your existing hot water baseboard, it doesn't heat the water to a high enough temperature. So our existing hot water baseboard that many of us it needs hot water that's around 160 to 180 degrees. Current heat pump technology that's available around here heats the water to around 120 degrees. So because it's not as hot, we can't reuse our existing baseboard one for one and replace it. The retrofitting is possible. It's pretty extensive, the retrofit, but folks can't do it. You have to replace your existing baseboards you have around the home to a more of a European style, low temperature, hot water baseboard. And you also need a lot more zones around your house for that hot water to go to the room and come back and get reheated by the heat pump again. So retrofitting can be a little bit extensive. So it's still worthwhile to look into options like ducted or ductless heat pumps.
Melanie, can I jump in? This is Bernie with a question.
Sure.
When you talk about them being very efficient down to -15, should we think about ductless and ducted as equally efficient? I'll just confess that I've always thought that ducted, there was a little premium, there was a little give up in efficiency between those two modes of getting the heat in and out of the house.
So really that little bit of efficiency you're losing is through the distribution system of the ducts itself. So the equipment still has the ability to be highly efficient, but just if your ducts are located in an attic space, yes, they'll be insulated, but because that attic space experiences really hot weather and really cold weather, your system usually has to be a little bit larger in size to make up for losing heat or cooling into that attic space. But in general, they're still much more efficient than any other option out there.
Thank you very much. Chris, I think there's maybe worth highlighting. There are a set of building configurations that I think are just challenging. So if it's hot water without ducts, I think you kind of touched on that as a difficult scenario for heat pumps, unless you want to go ductless.
Yeah. I mean, there's usually a way to use a heat pump in most homes out there. So, I'm sure we could find a house that's not suitable for it, but in most cases, you can use a mix of ducted and ductless equipment to meet your needs. And so, trying to adhere to what we know to be best practices for design, and trying to serve small rooms, with places that, maybe you could utilize ductwork, that's great. You saw in the images that Melanie shared, you can kind of mix and match the equipment depending on your floor plan to find a system that works well for you.
Somebody asked, with regard to the rebates, if currently and in the future, does the installer have to be in the heat pump installer network in order to access those rebates, or are they available to all HVAC contractors?
So at the moment, the contractors do not have to be part of the heat pump installer network to access rebates. When the new rebates do come out, the installer will have to be part of that heat pump installer network for the customer to access their mail-in rebates. All contractors, if you are licensed, will have access to the instant discount incentives they get when they purchase the equipment from a distributor.
And these are the new rebates that Melanie is referring to are the energy optimization rebates that I shared some information on in the chat.
And are they coming? Is there sort of a arrival date, or are they here now? And
they should be available by the end of the summer. And these $1,000 per ton rebates are going to be replacing the existing pilot program that Melanie talked about, as well as the existing electric resistance $1,000 per ton rebate. So it's going to wrap it all into one official program that will be $1,000 per ton for oil, propane, and electric resistance baseboard customers.
Kyle Wallace asked a really good question. What would make existing ductwork not suitable for a heat pump? Is it all insulation, sealing, or is it the size of the ducts? Can you just sort of illuminate what's a good duct and what's a bad duct?
Sometimes really old systems have ductwork that's actually made out of like a fibrous insulation board. Those aren't great systems. Also, if it was a system that was installed after the home was built and it was for air conditioning only, I recently talked to a customer where they only had 3 vents serving their first floor. That would not be adequate for heating. It was a colonial size house. So sometimes it depends how well that ductwork is distributed throughout your home and how old it is and what it's actually made out of.
Would that answer, Melanie, would that be a good example of why somebody should call one of the heat pump specialists? That sounds like it very much focused on the specifics of your house.
So the home energy solutions visit, they'll focus on being able to air seal your ductwork. Whereas if your ductwork actually needs to be replaced, that's more of having contractors come out to your house and look at your system to determine whether it can be reused or would need to be reworked to serve for both heating and cooling needs for your home.
So the starting point would be the home energy solutions then.
It definitely should be everyone's starting point. If they haven't had one done in the last 3 years, that's definitely a great starting point because you're eligible basically every 3 years to have that visit done.
Lisa is asking, are there incentives available for homeowners that have natural gas? And I'm one of those folks.
So the instant discount off the equipment is available to all contractors. You are, as a natural gas heated home, there are no incentives directly back to you, the customer. So there's no mail-in rebates, but you would have that bit of a discount off the equipment if you were to purchase it.
As you all look at one of the services that is provided through this Energized CT program is that you review quotes. Do most contractors break out those instant discounts? Can you, in other words, is it just a number and you say it's like spaghetti sauce, it's in there, or do they break it out and sort of spike it so you can see that you got it?
They usually do break it out. If they don't, I always have encourage the customers to question where that discount is so they can visually see it, because it is based on the size of the system. So it is a per ton discount. You want to be able to make those numbers make sense.
Henry is asking this question. I'm not sure I'm going to get this one right. I need feedback regarding customers that have furnaces, I guess not boilers. Sometimes the ductwork does not allow for adding a heat pump split system to the furnace. So I think he's talking about a dual fuel situation there. Can you always do a dual fuel situation, both for gas and oil?
You could always do a new dual fuel situation. If you're trying to add a heat pump to an existing really old furnace, that sometimes there's just not equipment that can be matched to that existing furnace just because it's such older technology.
Yeah, and I'll just take some editorial license and say if your furnace or boiler is that old, probably just on efficiency grounds, it may be time to come into this new century. Kenny Foscue is making a point about dehumidification as an option available to people who install heat pumps, as opposed to just the cooling aspect of air conditioning. Is there something different about air conditioning with a heat pump from the old-fashioned AC?
So there's many manufacturers that offer a dry mode function as part of their heat pump systems, both ducted and ductless systems. And this dry mode prioritizes dehumidification while providing a small bit of cooling. Also, a lot of older systems, traditional central air systems, are oversized for home because those manual J load calculations weren't done. And in general, oversized air conditioning equipment cycles on and off frequently, which doesn't allow it to dehumidify, because air conditioning systems dehumidify by cycling that air through the coil and extracting that moisture out of it. But heat pumps then have that additional mode to prioritize that dehumidification.
I'm going to ask a question from Lisa, who, and this is maybe technical and maybe a follow-up question, but she is really questioning. She has a 10 kilowatt generator right now. And I guess broadly construed, if she was to put in heat pumps as her heating source, is she going to have to upgrade that generator? And can a generator really function well as the electric supply source for heat pumps?
She does have to be careful with that. A lot of generators don't produce clean energy, and heat pumps are very highly technical systems, and they need a very clean source of energy. So she could potentially upgrade her generator, probably a very high performing generator, which is going to be probably costly. But it's definitely a conversation to have with a contractor selling those generators, if they can produce energy in a way that it's not going to spike or ramp up and basically fry out your heat pump system.
Right. I think she is dealing with she calls it archaic oil system, that it might be old, but it's relatively not sensitive, I guess, to voltage fluctuations and what you're talking about.
Exactly.
My goodness. It's hard to think about winter today, but Stephen Wagner is asking, how would you humidify like I have to humidify in the winter, and I think Stephen Wagner does as well. Is that something you can integrate with the heat pumps, or would that be a standalone humidifying system?
You're most likely better off having a standalone humidifier in the room where you spend most of your time and want to feel less dry. Ducted systems can have humidifiers added to them, but then you're putting moisture in your ductwork, which is not a super great thing. And then ducted or heat pumps in general, the hotter they provide is not as dry as a fossil fuel burning system. You're not actually like really, you don't have the high temperatures from the burning that fossil fuel. So the humidity levels in your home might be a little better with the heat pumps, but having more localized separate humidification systems would be the best way to go.
Gotcha. Lynn Johnson's actually got two questions. First, have you seen instances on the commercial side where heat pumps serve in a house of worship, so in a church or a mosque or a synagogue? So that's one question. And I believe Lynn lives in a multi-story, like 4 or 5 story building. Is there ways to integrate heat pumps in tall buildings?
So those are usually, Christopher, do you want to better answer that for me? Did you raise your hand?
Sure, So on the commercial side of things, the equipment that Melanie and I reviewed today is more like residential style equipment for like single family homes, maybe a 2-family, maybe a 3-family triple decker or something like that. But on your larger multifamily buildings or in a church or something like that, you can absolutely use heat pumps. Might just getting a little bit more into the commercial equipment. So there's a lot of fantastic commercial equipment around that can be used to serve those types of buildings. Churches are fantastic types of buildings to use with heat pumps. Around where I live, some of the churches around here have already completely switched over to heat pumps. It's way more affordable to use that type of equipment than a lot of the older heating systems that can be in some churches around here. So an absolute yes to both of your questions.
This is not a technical question, but Ramadan Gary is asking really a buying question, and he must be a keen observer of human psyche. He posits that contractors know that the incentive is there, and they don't have to disclose it on their invoice, and therefore they'll just pad their prices and sort of soak up the contract. Do you have any just general advice on any one of us or any of the people that we might talk to on how to really get a fair price in this process? What's the buying process like? Is that something that you all can help with?
So definitely start just getting at least three quotes from different contractors, and having the ability to work with an Energized heat pump consultation and review those quotes. We can compare the cost of the system versus what you're getting from that system, like the size of the system, the amount of equipment, how well it performs, and be able to help you differentiate. Maybe I will pay a little more for this equipment because it actually outperforms this quote that's a little less. So it really just starts with looking at options.
And I think intrinsic in your answer is that by virtue of seeing lots of people come at you, you've developed sort of a normative cost for a given amount of BTU in a certain system configuration. So you're not mind readers, and you don't have you're not psychic, but you can sort of say this is out of line with at least the norms.
Definitely.
Which I think is helpful. And we've got sort of two parallel questions here. Susan Miller is sort of stacking up on the church question that was asked before and saying, what about school gyms? That's one question. And then Christopher, I think what we're talking about today is mostly residential. Is there a parallel track for commercial, or do we have any advice that we can give today for people who are looking for help on these commercial sorts of questions?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, definitely heat pump, where heat pump technology is at, you could heat a skyscraper with it. So it is available for all building types that are out there. So it's viable to use in almost every situation at this point. So yeah, definitely can look at using it for the gym as well. As far as commercial contractors go, the heat pump installer network is being expanded to include commercial contractors. So look to the heat pump installer network in the coming weeks and months as we continue to add more and more contractors to it every day. There will be on that Find a Distributor page, it's a place I'd recommend going to first, and you can check out commercial contractors, small business contractors, etc. That will be able to help you in that space. And so, as I said, we're continuing to add contractors all the time to the heat pump installer network, and so they will be added to that soon.
In general, would you is the order of operations that people on this call and others would call you first, or call an installer that's in the network, get some quotes, and then call you? Who's on first, I guess, is my question.
I'll share my quick thought, and Melanie, you will add to it. So you can, of course, go about it whichever way you like. What Melanie and I try to do for folks when we're talking with them is we want to help you get 3 quotes that are, apples to apples. And you'll learn a lot from your first visit that you have with a contractor to the 3rd or 4th visit you have with the contractor. And so what we've seen, we've done thousands of consultations now at our group, and you might end up with like an apple, a pineapple, and a banana for quotes, right? and it's best if you can have 3 apples. So we can really help you try to hone in on what may be a viable design or idea for your house, give you some good questions to ask. So maybe you end up with quotes that are well aligned with your goals and are easy to compare one from another. So that way you're not only comparing, price or who you liked the best. You can also compare performance and system types and different things like that to help you make a more informed decision. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Melanie.
I think it was very well said.
All right.
I've got a question here from Michael Yule, and it follows very directly on your comments, Chris. In terms of doing a quote sort of diagnosis where you sort of take it apart and you line up the banana and the pineapple and the apple. Do you have an example that you can share now, or can you at least talk through in words what sort of information, if I was to come to either of you, what's sort of the diagnosis process that you all go through, and what should I expect to see sort of as a result of this consultation? And if you have an example, that'd be great if you want to share it. But
sure, yeah. So we're going to look at things, objectively for you. So we have to be totally agnostic when it comes to, brands and contractors and such, because we're here to be an impartial body for you to bounce your ideas off, get feedback from, because we're not here to sell you anything. We're just here to help you get to whatever your end goal is and provide you good feedback along the way. So we're able to look at those different quotes for you objectively, give you some good ideas, pros and cons, give you some idea of what performance is going to be like from one quote to another, so that you have a few more data points to be able to make a decision based off of, one system does this, the other system's designed like that, and performance is going to be this or that. And so you can get maybe some operating cost ideas and just a lot more information to be able to help you make a more informed decision.
So you probably said it in there, but I know from looking on the New England Energy Efficiency Partnership website that there's a cold climate heat pump list, and there's at this point thousands of options, but you'll be able to sort of take the operating characteristics of the piece of equipment that has been quoted to you, and you can maybe opine at least on normative price, as well as if there's a more efficient unit, you can say, yeah, they're quoting you this unit, but there's another unit out there that might do better. Is that a fair thing?
Yeah, I mean, we're not here to size and design your system for you. We will leave that job up to contractors who are in your house. We're doing virtual consultations and such. So while, we may not necessarily say you should get this other piece of specific equipment for your house, we might be able to say, this one might not line up exactly with your goals. Here are some good questions to ask that contractor so that you can get a little more feedback loop going here and line up with a quote that's going to better fit your needs.
I'll quote Melanie and say, well said. Steve Wagner is saying, can you put your website up again? Maybe if one of you can just put the link to the website, the Energized CT website, in the chat. That way, and by the way, folks, we'll send out a recording of this. Melanie and Chris are going to share the slides, and we will also save and share the chat. And the link is in there already. I think we have some folks who are familiar with European configurations. Is it fair to say that, I don't know if I'm getting Henry Pietras's comments right, but is there a technology in Europe or coming here that will actually yield those higher temperatures so that we can keep our existing radiators without going to the low heat radiators?
I think we will see that technology at some point. I don't know how soon that's going to come over here. I'm keeping my eyes on it and such because it's important for us to be aware of. But over in Europe, they do not use this type of baseboard radiators that we have. So even if they do have technology that's heating it to a bit higher temperatures, maybe it's 140 degrees, 150 degrees, et cetera, it still might not be quite enough to use our existing radiators here. So I don't have like a really specific and good answer for that question. It's kind of up in the air, TBD. We're keeping our eyes out on it. It may be viable at some point in the future. One thing to keep in mind is that if you did use this, it doesn't necessarily also solve your cooling solution. So if you have just baseboard hot water around the house, but you're currently just using window ACs. Having a heat pump that heats the baseboard hot water won't necessarily provide your cooling solution either. So you'd probably still be looking at installing some other type of distribution to solve for cooling, whether that's ductless or ducted systems. So yeah, I don't think it's enough of an argument at this time to say I'm going to wait until that comes out, because I don't know when it will. But you also, want to start thinking about a cooling solution. Heat waves like this are going to get more frequent and happen more often and maybe get worse. So we're going to want cooling solutions in our homes.
Yeah. Good. And apropos of your comment, as we've been talking, my AC has been cycling on and off, and every time it does, my Zoom flickers. So you're prescient. But yeah, I think you're flashing up the consultation there. And Kenny Foscue says, is there a phone number also?
There's not a phone number to call to schedule the consultation. The only way to schedule a consultation at this time is to follow this link.
Right. Let's see. Until this is Mark Scully. I've heard of this man. Until high temperature heat pump systems are available, and if you want to keep your old radiators, you can keep them and just use at a lower temperature and supplement with ducted or ductless. In other words, can you get a little bit of heat out of running your radiators at a lower temperature at 120 or 130 instead of 180?
Yeah, you could still get some heat out of them. The trouble happens is when we do get into those really low temperatures, that it won't be providing enough heat to keep the house at a comfortable temperature. You maybe could keep it at 60 degrees or something, but maybe you wouldn't necessarily be able to get it up to 68 or 70 degrees where we need our homes to be to remain comfortable and safe. So that can be a little bit of a tricky situation.
I'm gonna read some words to you. I don't even know what they mean, so feel free to say you don't know what they mean either. But how about chilled beams and ceilings for mating with heat pumps? Does that mean anything to either of you?
Yeah, it means some to me. I'm definitely not an expert on this type of install, but it is stuff that you'll see in some innovative homes, like a new construction. Folks might do this. You're typically going to see like chilled beams and things like that in more commercial buildings. And then, yeah, ceiling panels for heating, and you might be able to do it for cooling are sometimes an option. So it could be. It's quite uncommon though in the typical housing stock we see around here.
Chris, you answered this for me in the chat, but I think it's a worthwhile general question. As we've encountered different approaches to installing heat pumps, it seems clear to me that some contractors really have wanted to size the heat pump to the cooling load, which in New England is less than the heating load. And it sounds like, I know in New York, they're more and more moving to size, just as a way of doing business, sizing the heat pumps to heating load. I think variable speed heat pumps have made that be an okay thing to do. Can you just give a broad overview of the sizing dilemma? Is it something we should ask the contractor which they're doing, or should we expect it to always size to the heating load?
Yeah, so contractors should size it to the heating load, particularly if your goal is to displace your heating. Sometimes if the goal isn't necessarily to displace the heating and the main goal is to get cooling and displace a little bit of your heating, then it doesn't necessarily have to be sized to the heating load, and it maybe would be sized to the cooling load. But we're interested in helping folks reduce your fossil fuel usage. So I would agree, yeah, things should be sized to your heating load. Like Bernie said, with variable speed heat pumps, we know it will be oversized for cooling, but since they are variable speed, that typically is still okay for your cooling needs. Also, best practice designs, you're breaking up the responsibility of heating and cooling your house to maybe a couple outdoor units. So that also will further increase the likelihood that you're going to be totally fine on the cooling side and not have any performance issues.
Great. Lisa is asking a question that Do you, from where you sit, and you may not have a point of view on this yet, are there enough contractors who are in the network to meet the demand? And should we expect a lengthy wait? And I'll before you answer, I know that there have been times in the last year that supply chain issues have made getting the heat pump a slow process. I don't know if that's gotten better, and if you have a point of view on sort of the adequacy of our installation network to handle demand as you're seeing it.
Yeah, so there are definitely supply chain issues happening right now. It's also the busiest time of the year for contractors. So I try to give contractors a little leeway right now with, having trouble to respond to everybody in a timely manner because everyone's thinking about, oh, I need AC, particularly in the heat wave we're having. But just a couple ideas here. So some of the slower times of the season for contractors are the shoulder seasons. So it's a great time to get engaged with contractors. And then there is a huge network of contractors out there. The heat pump installer network is relatively new. We are working very hard every day to add more and more and more contractors to that list. So it's growing every single day, and there will soon enough, I'm sure, be a huge network there available to meet the demand. So we're working hard to make that a reality for you. There are already quite a few contractors on there now, and soon this find a contractor tool will be updated and it will be even more useful to search for local contractors pretty soon. So looking forward to that update. Yeah, let me know if that was a helpful answer.
Well, it's helpful to me. And that's all that matters in my mind. That's just the way I am. No. For people who are advocates who serve on committees, is there a way that they can draw you into sort of a presentation at a local level, whether it be a library presentation or a town meeting? Or would you want to come to a group like this to have those types of meetings? So can we get you for your star power at a smaller scale than we have you today? If, say, somebody in Kent or Stonington or Milford wants to have a session, do you have that speaker bureau sort of capability?
Yeah, so we're working super closely with Mia at Eversource and Sharon over at UI to provide this webinar service as much as we can. And so I would encourage you to reach out to us and we'll help coordinate those events with you, certainly.
That's great. And a couple questions, and we're about 12:55, so maybe we'll wrap it up after these two questions. And I think by now people know how to get a hold of you, so that's and they'll have your slides. But have you encountered these portable heat pumps? So they're sort of like a hybrid between a heat pump and a window shaking inserted air conditioner. That's something you've come across.
It is. It's kind of a new and growing space. I think a lot of that technology is new to the point that we're still not sure exactly how well it's going to perform in cold climates, but it is exciting. We're looking forward to seeing and learning more about it. And
something today that we didn't really, we talked about rebates, and we talked about the sort of the new style of them that they're formalizing, but financing. So for people who need a loan, because some of these are, as you indicated throughout your presentation, high upfront capital costs. Is there sort of a standard source? Is this something you're going to advise on? What are the loan configurations that are available to people? The Green Bank might have something.
Yeah, so there's an Energized Connecticut heating loan, and that's available to utility customers. Qualifying is based on your utility bill payment history, so there's no credit pull. The interest rate on that loan is 0.99%, which is great. And the maximum loan amount is $15,000. So depending on the size of your home, the size of the system you're installing, if your install costs are over $15,000, you can maximize the heating loan. And then there's also the Smart E loan as well, which you can use. Chris Rose put a link in the chat for our page on the financing options for Energized Connecticut. So the Smart E loan can be used for heat pumps, can also be used for a variety of other energy efficiency upgrades that your home energy solutions technician might make you aware of. And that one is based on your credit. Interest rates vary depending on what project types you're doing, what your credit score is, and the maximum loan amount is $40,000.
Great. I'm just going to say a big thank you. Hopefully you're seeing that in letters on the screen. On this hot day, sharing lunchtime, all of you energy networkers and others that joined us, and Melody and Christopher, thank you very much for this presentation. I learned a lot, and one of these days I hope to be able to say I haven't learned anything, but every time I hear people like you talk, I always come away with a lot of new information. I'm not smart enough yet. You'll be, for folks who have been sort of steadily asking, you're going to be able to get segmented recordings. There's not too many segments to this presentation. There's a bunch of other resources up on the PACE website. We've had people from Pura and Deep and things about indoor air quality in schools and things like that. So you're welcome to browse around once as you go looking for this particular thing. And we will notify you. You'll hear from Patrice Gillespie, our den mother, when the videos have been posted. And really want to thank you all for your attendance today.